Hi, everybody. If you have been around older people, you might have heard them say, just keep living. And I am 50. I turned 50 in August. And the longer I live, the more I tell my children, just keep living. And, my grandma used to say it, and I get it. You get life experience, you start to see things that maybe you didn't see before. You start seeing what they were saying. And all it is that the longer you live, you see things you never saw before. Things that, seem ridiculous, you didn't quite understand. So my grandmother, she used to say, nothing hurt a duck but its bill. Over and over again, she would say it. Nothing hurt a duck but its bill, over and over again. And so what I found is that things that she thought was important, she would say over and over again. Things that she knew that were life changing, she would say over and over again. So what she meant was, nothing hurts a person but their mouth. This mouth is lethal. I mean, we say things, we hurt people. It is the quickest way to hurt somebody, is to say something with your mouth. I think even if you fight somebody, it's totally different than the words that we say, because the words that we say lingers, right? If you hit somebody, you have a physical altercation, when it's done, it's over, right? Y'all fighting is over. But if you say something to somebody you say something that's hurtful, it lingers. And sometimes it could linger for years, for decades. So she would say, nothing hurt a duck but its bill. And over and over again, she would say it. And you talk about important, priceless, and it is important because we don't realize how much our words hurt. And it doesn't take a genius to figure it out, right? If somebody says words to you that have said something to you over the years, and it's still around, I call it residue. It's still around. If you can just tell, if somebody said something to you years ago, you were 10, you were 15, you were 30, and you still think about it right now, it still hurts you, then you can understand the power of words. And so we have to be careful about what we say to people, because we don't know if those words are going to hurt. And so the next thing I want to talk to you about is my mother. She was a school teacher for 3 decades, so 30 years, and she did these things that seem odd. I didn't quite get it right. I have 5 children, and I have 3 of my children are adults. So the youngest of the adult children is 28. I have 2 at home that are 10 and 12. And so when I had these older kids, I was a teenager, 18, 19, 21. I was young, right? So the things that I did then, I can't do anymore because I'm 50. So she would prepare for the week. And it always seemed like, what is the purpose? I had these 3 older kids. I never prepare for the week. And so now I'm 50, things have to be strategic, right? So she would make us get our clothes ready for the week. We would iron our clothes out for the week. We'd have everything ready for the week. So when we got up, there was no stress. There was no running around. We weren't looking for something. We weren't asking our mom, where's our backpack? All these different things. Everything was ready. Oh, but when I turned 50, I realized I'm just, every single area of my life, I'm looking for how I can prepare, because I don't like to rush. I don't like to be late. Time is super valuable to me. People don't realize how time is money. And what I think about, the first thing I think about is time, is how we waste so much time, how we waste so much people's time in meetings. Total waste of time. Like for me, I see 95% of meetings could be handled by email or a voicemail. I'm sorry, email or a text message. But we waste people's time. And so anyway, so she would make us get our stuff ready. And so I turned 50, and I'm looking for ways to reduce my stress, to keep me from rushing in the morning, to keep me from being upset with my daughter. I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old at home. Keep me from being upset. And you can't change anybody else, right? That is so important, that we realize that we can't change. And it doesn't matter how much you love them. It doesn't matter how much they, you fuss at them. You tell them different things. You complain. People only change when they want to change. And so I just decided I would change. I would do things differently. So I started on the weekend. I plan all my meals. I know exactly. And if my husband and I can't agree or we don't talk about it, the week is chaotic for me, because when I come home and I start to cook, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about what we're going to eat. In the mornings, I don't want to make any decisions before I leave home. I don't want to decide what are we eating today. I don't want to ask my husband what are we eating today. I want to know ahead of time. So on Saturdays when I plan the meals for the week. I get all of my stuff ready for the week. I get the kids' clothes ready for the week. I try to iron all their stuff out, iron all my stuff out so I know what I'm going to wear. I cannot stand getting up in the mornings trying to figure out what am I going to wear? What are the kids going to wear? I make sure I buy the lunches for the week. I have everything ready so that all we have to do is just get up and go. Get up and go. And so I learned this from my mother. I wish I had paid attention, right? And so we can learn a lot from our parents. And I heard somebody say, the older you get, the smarter your mother becomes, because we don't realize that the things that our parents did was to make things better, easier, faster, quicker. They developed wisdom. What they did was smart. It wasn't like they were doing it just to be doing it. They were doing it because there was a reason behind, a very important reason behind it. So just something to be thinking about. And you live long enough and you start looking, you start learning, if you're paying attention, right? Because everybody's not paying attention. Sometimes we do stupid stuff over and over again, and we find ourselves going around in circles. But when we learn better, we ought to do better. And the only way you can really learn better is if you're paying attention to what's going on around you, what's going on inside of you, what's going on, what triggers you, what gets you upset, and that's what happened with the clothes, getting my kids' clothes ready. I was so stressed. Mondays were the worst days for me because it's a lot going on Mondays. Mondays always hectic, like really chaotic, and I cannot stand it. And I start looking, okay, what do I need to do? What changes can I make? How can I make things better? And I just start looking at, I can prepare for all the meetings, all the stuff that I'm looking at my calendar on Saturday, and I'm planning for the next week, the meetings, all the stuff I have to do, what I need to prepare, content. I'm thinking about that on the weekend for the week. So I don't want to have to worry about that when the week starts. But Mondays are chaotic. And I just start evaluating what I do every single day that makes my life hectic. What stresses me out in the mornings? What stresses me out during the day? What keeps me like running around like a chicken with my head cut off? And what I start to realize is that if I get out the door late, or if I'm stressed before I get out the door on Monday mornings, the entire day is chaotic. So I start looking at, what can I do? How can I change? How can I make things better? And the first thing I thought about was, my mama used to do this. Now I get it. I get why she ironed out, and she had us get our clothes ready, and she ironed out the clothes for the week. Because that's one less decision you have to make. Looking for something to wear, looking for socks, you don't have to do that if you prepare for the week. And it's not just getting the clothes. That's one big thing, right? But there's other things that you can do, like planning the meals. I put gas in my husband put gas in my car on Sundays, because I don't want to have to worry about that during the week. I don't want to stop and have to put gas in my car. If whatever I'm doing, if I'm putting money in the bank, anything that I need to do running around, I do on Saturday. I don't do any running around. I try not to. I'm upset if I have to stop at the store and get something, but I try to make sure I have everything. But I don't do any errands. I don't run around at all during the week. And it reduces my stress. If I need something, I got to do something, put it down on a piece of paper. I make a list. If it's something I can order, my husband can't stand it, but I can order and have something delivered. I don't have to go to the store. I can order it off Amazon. I can have something delivered from Sam's. I don't have to run to the store. But just think about how you can make your life better. Changes that you can make in your life to prepare ahead of time. If it's a meeting, what do you need to know? What do you need to ask? If it's, you're planning an event, what's the budget? What's the location? What's the purpose, the goal? Who else do you need to talk to about it? Think it through beforehand so you can prepare. You can get everything ready. Even with working out, for me, I found that preparing ahead of time. Okay, what time am I going? What am I wearing? What time do I have to be back? And you start preparing, it'll make your life better and easier. So just some things to be thinking about. If you are if you talk a lot, you have to bathe what you're saying in prayer. Think about what you're saying. Sometimes we are saying the right things. We're just not the person to say it. It's the wrong time. We miss out on the nonverbal cues. But just some things to be thinking about as you go about your next week.